Very soon, guys.
Oh, that's a wrap? Anyways, wait, I got one for Smo. It ain't a rap, dog. Relax. UFC motherfucker. What's up, Smo?
I gotta ask you this. You stopped the guy with the 8-fight win streak. Do you feel like Sean Strickland did enough to get the next title shot in the middleweight division?
Yes, I fucking did. I don't think this thing works. I'll stand up. Yes, Judge, did enough. Listen, you don't want to see any of these motherfuckers fight that little Chechen war. You want to see the last fucking American in the sport going fuck that guy up. And that's what's gonna happen.
What did Sean Strickland do to beat Khamzat Chimaev inside
Anything I fucking want, dude. Anything I fucking want, dude. I'll bring a fucking goat. He'll get distracted. Anything I fucking want. I feel like we need to bring the belt back to America. We need a real fucking American to represent this fucking organization.
So, a fight with Khamzat at some point somewhere in the world over fighting at the White House?
Well, first of all, guys, I'm not leaving this country ever again. I'm an American. I'm not leaving, I'm not traveling, I'm not vacationing, I'm gonna die on this fucking soil. So it will be in America. Where the fuck that is, I'll be there. What do you want next, Sean? I don't know, man. Chimaev finally gets off the bench, dude. I'd like a piece of that little Chechen whore. But you never know with him, bro. You never know that guy, but that's what I want. I kind of thought you just started going a little wild. And like, no part of you slowing down, but you need to get a little bit more sloppy. But like, no part of this man was slowing down. He was a fucking savage.
Well, don't you just a second, okay? Obviously not winning. Florida just won 8 in a row. You stopped it. You're a former champion. What do you want next, Sean?
Listen, here's what we had. Zero drama beforehand, no big promotional circus, no manufactured beef, just this heavy tension you could almost touch in the air. Sean Strickland had been grinding away in private, putting together this methodical preparation for what everyone knew would be an absolute war with Anthony Hernandez. The whole fight world, everyone from weekend warriors to seasoned pros, could sense something massive was about to go down. Something career-defining. The breakdown among experts was pretty much 50-50, with half thinking Strickland's non-stop forward march would eventually crack Hernandez, while the other half figured Hernandez's relentless wrestling game would drag the former champ into deep waters. This wasn't just another Saturday night scrap anymore. It had become the ultimate test for both fighters.
Your champ, Sean Strickland!
So when Sean Strickland started breaking down Anthony Hernandez's fight history, he wasn't just looking at wins and losses on paper. He was reading between the lines, connecting dots that most people miss completely. Sure, Strickland could see that Hernandez had built this reputation as someone who smothers opponents until they break, but here's what caught his attention. Not every one of those dominant performances told the whole story. Strickland was convinced there were hidden factors at play that the general public never gets to see. Maybe opponents walked in with nagging injuries, or their camps fell apart weeks before the fight, or they showed up operating at 70% instead of full capacity. So when Hernandez would completely overwhelm someone and shock the MMA world, Strickland wasn't buying into the hype. He had his own way of interpreting those wins.
How do you know that about this guy? Like when do you know that about a fight?
I mean, that's how he's made his career, just like laying on guys, you know. But it's hard. Like he fought Roman Dolidze, and I mean, Roman Dolidze did his camp for us. He had his, like, again, talk about injuries. He hurt his back. He didn't even train really at all that fight camp. So like, you know, Fluffy goes in there and mauls him, and everyone's like, "Oh shit!" And you're like, me, has been in with Roman Dolidze for 10 weeks. I'm like, this guy didn't train at all. Like, he couldn't. His back was. But, you know, Roman had the idea that I'm just going to go in there, I got good jiu-jitsu, and I'm going to armbar somebody, and then lights come on, it doesn't happen. Yeah. So there is, like, it's kind of weird from insight, from knowing guys who fought, like Roman, where you're like, well, I know you felt like a badass, but, like, you should have seen what we've seen for the last 8 weeks. You would have been like.
Now for Sean, the idea of grinding through brutal championship rounds wasn't some nightmare scenario he wanted to avoid. Those deep, punishing stretches were literally his element, his natural environment where he felt most comfortable. Going 5 hard rounds wasn't unusual or intimidating for him. It was just Tuesday, but getting ready specifically for Anthony Hernandez, that required something completely different, and Strickland knew it. He openly admitted that Hernandez's relentless, almost inhuman pace was unlike anything most fighters bring to the table, something you simply cannot duplicate in normal training sessions. His solution was brilliant and brutal. He would cycle through fresh sparring partners one after another, going full intensity until each one was completely spent and couldn't continue, then immediately bring in the next body. If this fight ended up in those championship rounds where most fighters hit the wall, well, that's exactly where Sean Strickland wanted to be. That's where he felt most dangerous.
That was a layup.
You still, how do you feel about going into those 4th and 5th rounds knowing that it's going to be miserable? You welcome that, or you just like,
yeah,
I'll do it, I have to do it?
Yeah,
but like,
I mean, I don't know anything else in 5 rounds. Like, you just train for that, you know? Like, we did 5 rounds in here. I mean, you've seen 5 rounds in here, and then... Generally, I tried. You're like Flevy's a hard guy to train for because there's nobody that really fights like him, you know, that like has that pace. So a lot of my training is like my wrestling rounds are outside of sparring. I'll get guys. But I mean, you see me spar today, you know, you just like go with a guy until he becomes a dead body. Then.
But while Strickland might have believed those grueling late rounds would work in his favor, Hernandez was operating from a completely different mindset, thinking several moves ahead on the chessboard. For him, this wasn't some do-or-die moment that would make or break his entire career trajectory. He saw it as just another calculated step forward in his methodical march toward championship gold. Hernandez didn't measure fights by how much attention they got on social media or how many headlines they generated. He measured them purely by progress, by how much closer each victory moved him toward that ultimate prize. The title belt remained his true north, his final destination. Whether beating Strickland put him directly in line for a title shot, or still left a couple more big names to clear out, his approach wasn't going to change even slightly. Hernandez wasn't hunting for any shortcuts or easy paths. He was ready to systematically eliminate whoever remained between him and championship gold until nobody could question his claim.
I think that every fight's as big as you make it, and like, you know what I mean? I'm not where I want to be. I still want to be higher, so I'm still chasing dreams and goals. So like, I don't know. I just look at it like another fight. I'm gonna go out there to prove myself again and try to knock on that door for the title.
Yeah, clearly, with every step you take this step forward. Does this fight, Anthony? Does this take you to the doorstep of a title fight? Obviously, something that you have badly wanted for a long time.
Man, I really hope so. But if not, I mean, there's only 2 more people in front of me to take out. You know what I mean? So, like I said, if I got to take every out, then I will. But, I mean, then there's going to be no one to clear out the division. So, I don't know. I just want the belt. I'll clear that out, and then we go from there.
Despite everyone telling him this was the biggest opportunity of his entire career, Hernandez kept that same calm, steadily advancing mentality that had gotten him this far. He talked about Sean Strickland with genuine respect, recognizing him as exactly what he was, a battle-tested former champion who had proven himself against elite competition and thrived under the most intense pressure situations imaginable. But here's the key difference. Hernandez wasn't getting psyched out by Strickland's past accomplishments or letting those previous victories intimidate him. His reasoning was simple and logical. None of those impressive wins had come against Anthony Hernandez. In his competitive mind, this matchup wiped the slate completely clean, creating a fresh starting point where past results meant nothing. He was absolutely ready to step into that cage and prove to everyone watching that the version of himself facing Sean Strickland that night was a completely different and far more dangerous problem than anyone had encountered before.
How do you see Sean as an opponent? Obviously somebody who has won, massive fights, beaten the best of the best. He's been champion. Where do you see him? I mean, is he washed now? Is he still that same dangerous guy? What's this guy?
No, I think he's tough and he's really good. You know what I mean? He's beaten the fuck out of some great people, like you said, but all those people aren't me. So I'm looking to go in there and show what I could do against them.
Then Michael Bisping stepped in with his expert analysis, crunching the numbers and revealing a fascinating contrast between these two completely different fighting approaches. Strickland, according to Bisping's breakdown, brought serious volume and knockout power to every fight, consistently landing around 6 strikes per minute with a notably higher finishing rate. But here's where opponents could potentially find their openings. His accuracy and defensive fundamentals sometimes showed gaps, creating windows for his adversaries to exploit. Hernandez represented the opposite end of the spectrum, operating like a surgeon in there. Sure, he threw fewer total strikes, but each one was placed with much better precision, and he absorbed far less punishment in return. Most importantly, Hernandez held a massive grappling advantage, averaging an incredible 6.5 takedowns every 15 minutes compared to Strickland's much lower 0.73 average. When you looked at these numbers side by side, they perfectly captured the stylistic clash everyone was excited to see. Pure volume and pressure going head to head with surgical precision and wrestling dominance.
Now, let's have a look at some of the stats going into this one. The average fight length between the pair of these, Sean Strickland's average fight length, 16 minutes, Alexander Hernandez, 11 minutes, 20 seconds. Knockdown average per 15 minutes, 0.24 for Sean Strickland, 0.0 for Alexander Hernandez. So I think that points to the fact that Strickland hits harder. That's fair to say. Strikes landed per minute, Sean's the busier guy, 5.95 to 4.53 per minute for Hernandez. The striking accuracy, Hernandez is way more accurate. He lands at a 62.8% clip, whereas Sean Strickland lands 42.5%. Strikes absorbed per minute, Fluffy also has the better defense. He only gets hit 2.53 times per minute, where Strickland takes 4.57 shots. Striking defense 60% to 49% on Hernandez, and the striking differential plus 138 for Sean Strickland and plus 2.0. Now, when it comes to the grappling, the takedown average per 15 minutes, 6.5 takedowns.
But when Michael Bisping dug deeper into those grappling statistics, some really interesting details emerged that challenged the surface level assumptions. While Hernandez definitely pursued takedowns much more aggressively, his actual completion rate sat at a solid but not overwhelming 48%. Strickland, surprisingly enough, converted his much fewer takedown attempts at a significantly better 64% rate, showing a quiet efficiency that often gets overlooked. Even more impressive was Strickland's takedown defense when opponents tried to bring him down. He successfully defended an outstanding 76.2% of all takedown attempts, which was considerably better than Hernandez's 68.2% defensive rate. The submission statistics revealed a similar pattern of contrasting styles. Hernandez averaged 1.8 submission attempts per 15 minutes, constantly hunting for the finish. Strickland barely registered at 0.16, but rather than showing weakness, this actually highlighted his ability to control and neutralize threats once the fight hit the ground, frustrating opponents and preventing them from advancing to dangerous positions.
Whereas Sean Strickland, 0.73. The takedown accuracy, though, of Fluffy is only 48%. When Sean goes for a takedown, he's way more successful. He gets a takedown 64% of the time. That's because Fluffy goes for so many takedowns. The takedown defense, Sean is better there. He's got 76.2%, whereas 68.2% on the side of Fluffy Hernandez. And then finally, submission attempts throughout a 15-minute period, 1.8 for Fluffy. I thought that would have been higher. It certainly looks like it.
Now those grappling numbers suddenly became much more significant when word got out about something that allegedly happened during Khamzat Chimaev's training camp. The story making the rounds was that a 21-year-old teammate had managed to catch Sean Strickland in a rear naked choke while he was preparing for this fight against Anthony Hernandez. If these gym rumors were actually true, they would highlight a very real and specific weakness in Strickland's game that the basic statistics couldn't reveal. For Hernandez, hearing something like this wouldn't just be interesting gossip from another camp. It would be incredibly valuable intelligence, a major confidence boost. It suggested that the experienced and dangerous Strickland might not be as untouchable as his reputation indicated, and that insight could potentially give Hernandez exactly the mental edge he needed to implement his game plan from the opening bell and control the entire fight.
Hunter, what were you gonna say?
Go ahead.
I want to say 1 week ago we were at PI and we go to Extreme Sparrings and this guy submit Sean Strickland.
Oh!
Yeah.
How did you submit him?
Yeah.
We were sparring with Sean Strickland. He asked me and Baisangur. Baisangur went with him 3 rounds and he made him tired. And then he says, "Come on, you." And I went, take him down and submit him. Rear naked choke.
Meanwhile, Chael Sonnen, never one to hold back his opinions, painted an even more dramatic picture of what this fight could mean for both careers. He argued that if Anthony Hernandez didn't just win, but actually dominated and dismantled Sean Strickland in the cage, it wouldn't simply go down as another victory on his record. According to Sonnen, it would completely transform how people viewed Hernandez as a fighter, launching him into an entirely different tier. In this scenario, Hernandez wouldn't be satisfied with just outpointing his opponent. He would be looking to control every aspect of the fight, leaving Strickland frustrated and completely unable to find his rhythm or establish any offense. For a fighter of Strickland's status, a proven veteran and former champion with an established legacy, getting thoroughly exposed in such a convincing manner would send shockwaves through the entire middleweight division. It would permanently change how both fans and fellow fighters viewed his abilities. In that situation, Sonnen emphasized Hernandez wouldn't just have picked up another win, he would have announced himself as a legitimate threat at the very top of the division.
What if Hernandez does go through him? I don't just mean beat him, because Hernandez didn't say I'm going to go beat him. I'm going to beat him up. There's a big difference. I'm going to torture him. I'm going to make him pay. I'm going to out-grapple him. I'm going to outstrike him. I'm going to outpace him. What if Hernandez was to make Sean look bad? I mean, what would that mean? The stakes totally change. Like this up-and-coming idea of Sean, which by the way, he's a bit of a veteran. He's a former world champion. That really knocks you down. Hard thing to come back from, as a matter of fact. I would go as far as to say that. And these are just the stakes. This doesn't put extra pressure on Sean. This is just a reality.
Chael Sonnen kept pushing this point, emphasizing that the real pressure wasn't actually on Anthony Hernandez at all when you really thought about it. Consider the positions they were in. Hernandez was young, rising rapidly through the rankings, and riding serious momentum. He didn't need a perfect, flawless performance to continue his upward trajectory. Even a good, solid victory would keep him moving forward toward bigger opportunities. Strickland, however, had much more on the line than just another loss on his record. A truly poor showing, a performance that fell well below expectations, could seriously damage the reputation he'd built as a veteran and former champion, potentially derailing his career momentum significantly. Sonnen consistently stressed that perception and optics matter enormously in the fight game. How a fighter looks and performs carries real weight. If Hernandez executed his strategy exactly as planned, it had the genuine potential to catapult him into stardom practically overnight, while simultaneously leaving an established fighter like Strickland trying to pick up the pieces and rebuild his standing.
And I don't think that Hernandez is going to have to be the guy that's going to have to go out and break the record and beat 11 straight. I just don't. So what do you do? I mean, what do you do? What would happen there? Because it doesn't hurt Hernandez that bad if he gets bumped by Sean, by the way. Hernandez is a young guy. He's got all sorts of paper behind him, and now he's in the main event. Like, Hernandez got a rocket ship tied to his ass. He's going to be a star. But Sean could really fall. And the way you look does matter. What the performance looked like, it does matter. Hernandez says he's out.
Bilal Muhammad, who's known for his straightforward and often harsh assessments, analyzed this matchup in pretty unforgiving terms. According to Muhammad, Strickland was essentially a known quantity at this point. You could predict what you'd get from him. He would do his talking, throw that consistent jab, and fire off those body kicks, probably launching well over 150 of them during the fight. But Muhammad believed that Hernandez had the tools to expose weaknesses that don't always show up clearly in the statistics. For example, body shots had given Strickland problems in previous fights, creating a vulnerable target area, and his tendency to walk forward aggressively with that pressure style against a skilled wrestler like Hernandez could be a dangerous strategic mistake. Muhammad's prediction was straightforward and confident. Strickland's one-dimensional approach and relentless pace simply wouldn't hold up against Hernandez's diverse skill set, leaving him exposed to repeated takedowns and suffocating control. This was exactly the type of matchup where Hernandez could dominate every exchange and completely control the narrative inside the cage.
Strickland, you know what he's going to come out and do. He's going to talk, say stupid stuff to fight weak, but he's going to throw out his jab. He's going to throw out that teep. I'm going to say over under 50 teep kicks for Strickland. Fluffy's shown that he has a weakness in the body. He's gotten hurt to the body a couple times. Kevin Holland finished him with a body shot. So for Strickland, you got to keep him at that jab length. He does a lot of walking forward. I don't think that's going to help him in this fight, because moving forward on a guy that wants to shoot on you and wrestle on you, it's going to give him openings to get the takedown. I'm picking Fluffy. I think that pace is going to be too hard to keep up with. I just want to see him break Strickland.
William Welch brought up another important tactical consideration that many people overlook when analyzing Sean Strickland's fighting style. He pointed out that Strickland rarely initiated takedowns himself and often kept his stance very upright, which in the grappling world could potentially make it much easier for a high-level wrestler like Hernandez to secure takedowns and impose his ground game. Welch was hoping to see Hernandez take full advantage of this tactical opportunity, constantly pressuring the pace, forcing Strickland into wrestling exchanges, and keeping him moving and reacting instead of allowing him to settle into his preferred striking rhythm. At the same time, he gave credit where it was due, acknowledging Strickland's legitimate grappling skills and defensive abilities, recognizing that despite the strategic analysis, this matchup promised to be a high-level tactical battle inside the cage where every decision could prove crucial.
It's not a bad bet. I mean, yeah, I don't really see Sean Strickland shooting much on him. Strickland's been fighting with his knees locked out. He has those puppies locked
that
out.
That makes me funny. You're exactly right.
Tall as hell. Hopefully we see
tiptoeing.
Hopefully we see Fluffy pushing the pace on him, making him wrestle, making him get up a lot. But Strickland is a good grappler, and God, I'm fired up for the fight.
Plus, we had the MMA guru offering a completely different and somewhat surprising perspective on how this fight might unfold. He saw the matchup as potentially perfect for Strickland's signature front kicks to the body, those sharp penetrating strikes that had been so effective throughout his career. His reasoning made sense. Hernandez's body had shown vulnerabilities in previous fights, and his characteristic forward-leaning posture, while providing certain defensive advantages, also created open targets that a precise striker like Strickland could exploit with surgical accuracy. Even though Hernandez entered the bout as the betting favorite, the guru couldn't shake the feeling that a consistent stream of those front kicks and well-placed body shots might be enough to gradually swing the fight in Strickland's direction, making it much closer and more competitive than the initial odds suggested. Then you had Mario Batista, who saw this as an ultimate endurance test, predicting that both fighters were built to maintain an incredible pace from start to finish, never letting up for a second. But when it came time to make his final prediction, he went with Sean Strickland, believing that Strickland's extensive experience and proven ability to dictate fight tempo could give him the decisive advantage in what promised to be a relentless, high-energy battle. When everything was said and done, Sean Strickland proved those believers right, stopping Anthony Hernandez by TKO in the third round and validating the picks of everyone who backed his relentless pressure and hard-earned experience over Hernandez's impressive but still developing rise through the division.